Good afternoon. My name is Danny. I actually had an exciting morning this morning. I woke up at yesterday. I actually flew from Hanoi, Vietnam, and I arrived to Bangkok really late, close to midnight. I drove all the way to Rayong, which is about 2 hours. And early this morning, with only about 4 hours of sleep, I woke up. I'm a father of twin boys who are 19 months old, and we ran 5 kilometers together and engaged 16 obstacles with my wife. My wife was the lady who was talking about time management and summer programs, and showered, and then I got in a taxi and made it over here just in time. I walked into the office exactly at 1 o'clock. So I had a really exciting morning, and my name is Danny, and I'm the founder and CEO of Point Avenue. By background, I was actually born in Seoul, South Korea, and I immigrated to America at the age of 5. I grew up in Georgia. My older brother and I, my mom and dad raised 2 boys, and he went to MIT where he studied mechanical engineering and material science, and then I went to West Point. So I spent about 6 years in active duty in the U.S. Army. I went to Iraq. I served in combat, led over 500 combat missions. I jumped out of airplanes over 1,000 times with a parachute, of course, and I'm a sniper by background, by qualification. So that was like my earlier chapter in my life in my 20s. And then my older brother invited me to join him in an education company that he started in China about 12 years ago. And so I pivoted from U.S. Army military leadership to education. And so I've been in private education for about 12 years now and moved to Vietnam about 5 years ago to start this company. And we currently have operations in Vietnam, in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, in Bangkok, and also in Seoul, South Korea. A little bit more about myself is I really have a great passion for mentoring students and families and advising them about the best opportunities, building character, building habits, building time management skills, and not just about getting into great boarding schools or universities abroad, but it's about ensuring that our students do well and can be leaders in their new communities. So that's my quick introduction. A very exciting morning, and I'm thankful that I made it here through the traffic. And I'm going to pass it over to our camp director, Armand.
Thank you very much. All right, so welcome everybody. I'd like to say my name is Mr. Armand. I am the camp director for Point Avenue, Thailand. And just to tell you a little bit about my background, I'm originally from South Africa, and I've been engaged in education and mentorship for the past 8 years. It was approximately during my final year of university when I became more engaged in tutoring and mentoring other fellow students, and this simply ignited a passion inside of me to try and make learning, development, and growth fun and meaningful. Since then, I've set out in a variety of settings in the hopes of finding my own method of teaching, of mentoring, and motivating fellow students in order to become the best versions of themselves. Looking very forward to telling you guys more about our camp program and a little bit about what it is that we do at Point Avenue. Thank you very much.
All right, so we have a full agenda here today. At some point in time, we're going to take the students who are enjoying the snacks. And if you didn't get a snack, we have some snacks over there. And the students will go with Mr. Armand and the mentors and engage in some camp-related activities. And then for the parents here, we'll engage in dialogue about things that you can do at home in order to teach very important skill sets such as responsibility, ownership, communication, creativity. So we'll have a little discussion together, and then your children will come back and we'll discuss more about our camp programs. So just to give you, once again, a little bit more background, at West Point, which is where I studied sociology and environmental engineering, we have 4 pillars of excellence. So we're measured on character, measured on leadership, measured on academic rigor, and global citizenry. So based on my education and my life experiences, being in the Army for about 10 years and at an institution that prides itself in leadership, when we began Point Avenue, we really wanted to infuse those important elements of character, global citizenry, leadership, and academic rigor. So this is what we call the Point Avenue ethos. Ethos are words that we live by. And when we hire teachers here at Point Avenue, what's important is if you want to teach English, you can teach English anywhere else. If you want to teach character and use English as a medium of communication with students, this is the place for you. And every class we begin with students and every class we end, we focus on the Point Avenue ethos, which once again you can see here. I will always give maximum effort. I will never quit. I will stand up for others, and I will live my life with integrity. So more important than getting all A's, more important than getting high test scores, at the end of the day, character is what matters most. I don't know if you can tell how old I am. Take a guess, young man. How old do you think I am? Throw a number out there. 25? Thank you very much. I will give you a prize at the end of today's presentation. So yeah, 25 was in my earlier days, but I'm almost 40 now. My older brother, 15 months older, his name is Sam. He turns 40 this April, and I'll be turning 39. And so even now, at my age of 39 and 40, I engage in very healthy dialogue with my parents. My father's 70 years old. My mom is 65. They're retired. They moved back to Korea, which is where we were born. And every single day, I make time to call my parents. I call my parents, even if it's a short 2-minute conversation. Sometimes it's a long 15, 30-minute conversation. And I always begin the conversation with gratitude. Gratitude, saying thank you for raising me all these years. And I love you, right? Because we actually don't know what tomorrow will bring. And I never want to have the last conversation in regret, right? So once again, I share this kind of personal story with you because that's how much our mission matters as educators and mentors here at Point Avenue. So just to give you kind of a quick history, we began our journey in Hanoi. We actually have 2 Point Avenue centers in Hanoi, and we opened here in Eki Mai in 2020. When we teach and when we build the curriculum and the lesson plans, it's focused on inquiry-based learning. So inquiry-based learning is this idea of active discussion, right? So you need to, as a student, come into the classroom ready to discuss the topics rather than just receiving information from the mentors, right? We don't learn through rote memorization where you just take notes, you follow the teacher because the teacher is a figure of authority, but it's focused on student-centered learning where we provide a lot of positive affirmation, encouragement, and active discussions so that students can learn and lead the discussions. Here at Point Avenue in Thailand, we have 4 main products that we offer. So we offer debate and public speaking. Actually, this afternoon, we have a slam poetry contest. So that's a lot of fun for students. We also provide academic writing. So if you want to boost your creativity and improve your writing skills, which is a lifelong skill set, even now I have to think carefully before I write an email and provide guidance to the team members I work with or communication to parents. Leadership camps. So leadership camps are offered in the summer break and also during the winter break. And then finally, admissions consulting. So every year we are very blessed to have the opportunity to mentor excellent students who need guidance to find their way to discover their true passion. This year we help students here in Thailand gain acceptance to Cambridge in the UK, also to other top universities in the US, Caltech, which is an equivalent of MIT, but much more focused on research. This is in California, and many, many other top boarding schools and undergraduate universities. So these are the main products that we offer, which means that majority of our students would be in the elementary to grade 12 students. We have been running camps for quite some time now in Asia. All the camps began first in China, in Shanghai, and we've been running camps here in Southeast Asia for over 5 years. And why is camp important? Well, growing up as a kid, I went to a lot of camps. One, my parents were really busy, and they needed a place to put my brother and me to keep us out of trouble. And we went to a lot of camps where we learned about independence, where we built relationships with friends outside of our social circle, which means outside of our school, where we also had opportunities to learn things outside the classroom, right? A lot of times throughout the academic year, 38 weeks, 39 weeks, 40 weeks, we were in the classroom. And in my opinion, and this is also research that's conducted by Harvard University as well as top leading institutions, they say that the best learning happens outside of the classroom because these are life skills that you can build. Honestly, as parents here, think to yourself, do you even remember math concepts, physics concepts that you learned when you were in school? And if the answer is yes, it might be because you have a PhD and you're a university professor or you're a teacher. But generally, as professionals, as parents, we kind of forget all of those lessons learned. What we remember are the relationships that we have with the professors or the mentors, the teachers, the friendships. Some of you may still have best friends from high school, from university, and the experiences. The experiences, because we are the sum of our experiences. The more you experience, the more you can do in terms of decision making and guiding your life path. So these are skills that are necessary for future leaders. Who here has heard of ChatGPT 3 before? Okay? Hopefully you're not using that for your English essays, but ChatGPT 3 is AI driven, and you can ask any question. I could even ask, it's my mom's birthday next week, what should I buy her? These are her preferences, and ChatGPT will give me a response, right? Who here has heard of DALL-E before? DALL-E, D-A-L-L-E. What is DALL-E, young man?
Drawing.
Correct. So visual, imagery. DALL-E, you can ask, for example, who here has seen an astronaut on the moon riding a unicorn before? You have? Oh, because you asked DALL-E, right? So Neil Armstrong, who was the first man on the moon, Buzz Aldrin, the second man on the moon, same trip. He's a West Point graduate. They were not riding a unicorn or even a horse on the moon. But what we can do with this AI is we can ask questions and create images that we never could think possible. And so what we do is when we teach, we have competition with AI. You guys know people play AI with chess, with Go, different types of games. And also nowadays, we could debate with AI. We could ask and say, should students wear uniforms? And ChatGPT would give me reasons why and reasons not. And we could debate with the AI. We could ask a question and say, I want to draw an astronaut on the moon riding a unicorn. And before we have DALL-E spit out the image, we can draw it and have these competitions. Right? What we're saying is the jobs today, when you all graduate university and are 22, 23 years old, will be obsolete, which means gone. Bye-bye. The jobs created when you graduate university, we cannot even think what they will be today, actually. Think about that, right? When I was growing up, my parents said, you need to be a medical doctor. They told my brother, you need to be a lawyer. Grow up in an Asian family, right? Those are stable jobs that will give you good income and stability for the rest of your life. So my brother became an entrepreneur and I became a soldier, right? So the point here is we discovered our passion and found out what we wanted to do. We made our own decisions for our life. And so what we teach here is skills that you need that will never go away, right? Whether jobs in the future we may not know, these skills will always be there. Right now, when we interview and we hire mentors who work here, these are the kinds of skills that we want to assess. Everybody's resume looks great. Everybody's reference letter from their previous employer is going to look great. But how do you measure adaptability? How do you measure communication skills and creativity and problem solving? So these are the skills that we teach here at Point Avenue, and we also model and live by as the mentors.
Okay, Mr. Danny, I would like to ask for the attendance of our young students. So while the parents will be remaining here to continue the talk with Mr. Danny, we and the students can go and have some fun with some leadership-based activities. You guys excited? Yeah? All right. Please come on, follow me. We're going to go with myself and Miss Alice, and then we'll be right back shortly.
You guys can go through that secret door right there. If you look at that door from the outside, it's the secret door. Have fun, guys. All right. So what we want to do here is create a bit of dialogue. I believe English is comfortable for all of you. And nowadays, being bilingual is automatic, right? Almost every single person nowadays, you have to speak at least 2 languages, if not 3. Your children may even speak 2 to 3 languages. Today, what we want to talk about is things that you can do as parents to harness and develop leadership at home, right? Because if you think about it, the time you have with your kids is quite limited, right? They may spend about 8 hours a day sleeping, we hope. And if you're younger, you're supposed to sleep more. My kids right now, 19 months, sleep 12 hours a day, right? So that's 12 hours of freedom right there. We don't have to worry about the kids. And then they'll go to school for about 8 hours a day, right? So already 16 hours is captured. And then, not to mind you, the commute, the traffic, the commuting time, traveling from point A to point B. And so when you think about it, your time with your children is actually quite limited. Number one, in the mornings, when you wake them up, and maybe they're a little bit cranky when they wake up in the mornings. In the afternoons, when they come home, and before dinner time or after dinner time, and then on the weekends. And that's pretty much it. And so what we want to do is encourage parents to do more than the norm. The norm would be, hey, honey, how was school today? What are you learning at school today? Right? And these general questions, it's like when you meet someone, hello, how are you? I'm good. Right? Imagine if somebody said, my life is terrible. Let me tell you why. Do you have time for that? Wow, like we would be shocked, right? Because it's a conversation that requires no thought. Hello, how are you? I'm good. Let's move on. And so as parents, if we want to harness and develop leadership at home, what we don't want to do is create those no thought process required conversations. So we're going to break it down into a few categories. And then once again, I want this to be a bit of a dialogue. If you feel more comfortable responding back in Thai, it's okay. Right, we have Pi Hua here, who is our general manager, and she is obviously bilingual, right? So she can help translate. Okay, so the first part here is how do you encourage responsibility, right? As parents, we want our children to be responsible for their own lives first, right? Because as kids, you don't have to be responsible for your parents. Later, as Asians, we are responsible for taking care of our parents. In America, Western society, you graduate college, you're on your own, right? Maybe you check in on your parents here and there, but there's no sense of taking care of your elders. But in Asia, right, we have this kind of mindset, and so we can connect on that. So let me ask you, parents, how do you encourage responsibility at home? Please. Anybody here want to volunteer? Yes, please go ahead.
We ask them to take care of what to bring to school every day. So they have to take care of their own uniform.
Yes.
They need to know what kind of classes they're going to have tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we just do small things like that just to encourage them to take responsibility.
Fantastic. So preparing for the next day and being mindful about what I have to do for tomorrow, right? Meaning, okay, these are all the classes I have. Nowadays, your children probably don't have textbooks, right, as much. It's mostly digital, but there's definitely class materials that I would have to take, right, like specific notebooks, right, for specific classes or projects that I have, and then, of course, their own uniform. The worst thing you can do is wake up in the morning and try to figure everything out in that short period of time, rush, barely get on that shuttle bus, right, and then be late. So that's a fantastic way to teach a sense of responsibility. You're responsible for your own school bag and everything that goes in it. Okay? What else? What's another example? Let's get something from over here. Parents? Yeah, go ahead.
ภาษาไทยแล้วกันนะคะ ก็ให้ลูกทำงานบ้านบ้างอะค่ะ รับผิดชอบอย่างเช่นล้างจานหรือว่าซักถุงเท้าอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะ
Yeah, fantastic. Washing their own socks. Nice. Yeah, so, generally a lot of the families may have some help around the house. Whether you have a driver, whether you have a maid, right? Somebody who helps out in the house, but that doesn't mean that we're not responsible for our own stuff, right? So what I mean by this is when you finish eating, we need to teach our children to pick up their utensils, their plates, and walk it to the sink, right? Of course, when we go to a restaurant, somebody does it for us, but at home, we need to be responsible for our own stuff, our own mess, if you will, right? What about something small like making your bed? Who here, please be honest, right, makes their bed, your own bed in the morning when you wake up? Sometimes not, okay? And so when you see here, as parents, we also need to model, set clear expectations, but we also need to lead by our own examples, right? So if you ask your children to make their bed, and making your bed is such a simple task. It takes maximum of 2 minutes. Maybe if you do it West Point style, 5 minutes, right? Because it has to be perfect, right? No creases. And you have to have this thing called hospital corners. So 2 minutes to 5 minutes, and yet we don't do it. Why is that important? If you can do the small things, you can do the big things. And we know after a very long day, a very stressful day, you come back home, you see your clean, perfectly made bed, and it feels so good, right, to break the sheets and to go in there. And so these are habits that we build. And if we can model and set clear examples as parents and do it, right, it's a beautiful thing. It's like kind of like a family tradition, if you will, right? Hey, mom and dad will show you how to make their bed. Come into our bedroom. You guys can see it. You can inspect it. And then let's go into your room and see you do it. And every single day, you guys can inspect our room, and every single day, we'll inspect your room. You can make it like a little activity, family tradition, building traditions, family games, family rules, right? Also, when you do chores, there's nothing better than to do it together as a family, right? So, for example, every single time as a kid, I remember growing up, my dad and I always had to do the dishes. My mom never touched the dishes. She cooked the food, so we did the dishes. And I was the soap guy. My dad was the water guy. And my brother, sometimes, he didn't do it all the time, would stack the plates, right? He would dry it, and then he would stack the plates. So we developed this kind of assembly line of duties. And growing up, I knew after every single meal at home, and usually it's only dinner, right? Because breakfast, you're out the door. After every single meal at dinner, and then on the weekends, this was our duty. And even now, I still do the dishes. And I actually love washing, cleaning things, right? It's become kind of like an obsession. I love cleaning things, making things clean. So these are some specific things that you can do. And by the way, keep it simple, right? For every single one of these examples we provide today, think about 2 actionable items that you can do at home. If you're already doing it, fantastic. That means you can bring in 2 more areas, right? 2 more examples where you can work with your kids to teach them about responsibility. Another example about responsibility is time management. Most kids at this age, right now, often are asking their parents, hey, mom, dad, what am I doing this weekend? Right? And how I know this as a mentor is I ask them, I say, hey, buddy, what are you doing this weekend? Ask my mom. Wrong answer, right? If you're 19 months old, like my kids, okay, maybe that's acceptable. But if you're a middle schooler, a high schooler, and you're doing this same routine, every Saturday I go to karate class, right? I do cello, I do swimming, then you should know your own schedule. And we need to teach our kids to be able to communicate their own schedule, which means that they're responsible for their own schedule. There's no better way to do that than use calendars. Let's be honest, your kids all spend a lot of time, screen time, right? Whether it's for school, or they say it's for school, but it's really watching YouTube or playing some games, right? But the point is they already spend a lot of time on their screens, so why not give them tools that can be helpful to teach them responsibility when using screen time? Online calendars are like the best way to synchronize as a family, right? Let's say dad has his own online calendar, mom has her own, if you have 2 kids, they each do, and then you guys can sync together on the calendars. Remember, you're not doing this because you don't communicate as a family. You're doing this because you're teaching your children how to be responsible. One day when they become a professional, they need to operate off of a calendar. They need to know when somebody sends them a calendar invite, you need to click accept. And you need to pay attention to what time the meeting is and where the meeting is and what I need to prepare for that meeting. So these are examples of what you can do to teach responsibility, right? Next one is how do you help build their confidence? How do you help build their confidence? And we can say, if I were to get a small sample size of students here in Thailand, and I could say, hey, please, one of you guys volunteer. What do you think the expected response would be? As soon as I asked that question, hey, can I get a volunteer? A lot of them would put their head down kind of like this and hope that I don't make eye contact with them. Because if I do, guess what? I'm calling you. What I do as a teacher is whoever puts their head down first, well, guess what? You're up. And so we teach children to be confident about themselves, about who they are, because this is important. If you can't simply love yourself, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love myself, then that leads to future challenges in mental health, right? Nowadays, there's a lot of challenges, a lot of sad stories we hear about mental health because of what's available on the internet and social media, the negative influences of what social media can do. Cyberbullying is real, right? Bullying in person is real, and there's a lot of terrible things out there. And so we as parents need to teach our children to be confident. Confident means self-love, right? If I'm confident, then that means I have self-love. And self-love can only be achieved through expression of love at home, right? Meaning, constantly as parents, we give our children affirmation. You know, you shouldn't give freebies, but it's as simple as saying, honey, I'm so proud of you. Mom, well, what do you want from me? Right? Well, why are you saying that? No. Let me tell you, I'm proud of you because of, and then we give an example, right? We went to the teacher-parent conference at school, and I saw you take charge of your own schedule and your life, and then you told us, parents and the teacher, 2 things that you're going to work on. And mom and dad made a mental note of that, and we're really proud of you. You're really growing up to be a fine young gentleman or a woman, right? So when you give compliments, be specific. Don't just say, I love you, right? Of course you can say, I love you, but you can give them reasons why, right? You love them. Kids, hey, I love you because one day you may understand when you become a parent, the connection between mother and child or father and child is irreplaceable. This idea of unconditional love. Mom, come on, let's not talk about this cheesy stuff, right? Unconditional love is real. Having these conversations with your children actually plants seeds of positivity that many, many years later will blossom into a beautiful plant, flower, whatever you call it, right? Another example of self-confidence is when you guys go out, don't take charge. You know, naturally, we look at the father as a figurehead of the family, right? In a typical Asian household. And so let's say we go out to a restaurant, or we go out and there's like a family event with other families, and the dads are kind of taking charge, right? Let's say we go to a restaurant, and the dad looks at the menu and he orders everything. Give your children the opportunity in a safe environment with the family to take charge, to take on leadership roles, and even say, hey, one day dad's going to be an old man, and you will have to take care of us. You have a responsibility to the family, and we might as well start building this type of responsibility. Once again, having these conversations is so important. You know what Asians family do very well? They lay out these expectations, but what they don't do very well is teach about financial literacy. Who here has taught their kids about financial literacy? Basically, how to manage your finances as a parent here. Have you ever had like a discussion or a class or even taught your kids how the stock market works, right? Beyond this idea of, hey, if you want to be rich, put your money in savings account. That's the wrong advice, actually. We all know that putting your money in the savings account ain't going to make you rich. And so financial literacy is something that we just don't do as Asian parents. Why? Because our parents didn't do that. So why do we have to do that? But guess what? The times are changing. The conversations we need to have with our children are very different than the conversations that your parents had with you. Because how the world is evolving through technology, through AI, through accessibility. How do you foster communication? Okay? So raise your hand if you feel that you have very open, honest, good dialogue with your kids. Like there's no challenges of communication. Communication. Raise your hand if you think that you have good communication with your kids. No? Nobody's raising their hand? I expected everybody to raise their hand. Okay?
They were good enough. There's still a few things that, we all hope we could improve on.
Okay, so here we go. As human beings, we always focus on what we need to improve, the weaknesses, right? This is how the human mind is wired. We don't focus on what we achieved, but we focus on what we need to achieve. So wait, give the microphone back to the father here. Sorry. Okay? So I want to hear, before he talks about there are things that can be improved, I want to hear something you're proud of as a father in terms of good communication that you have with your kids. By the way, you have 2 sons, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 sons.
How old are they?
10 and 8.
Okay, 10 and 8. That's a fun age before puberty. It's coming soon. Okay, go ahead.
We do talk a lot, and we share a lot of common interests. So we do. I do feel like we communicate well on the things that we like, we enjoy. What I was hoping we could improve on, there were times when you kind of feel that there might be something to be shared, right? Something more, and then it takes, it just doesn't come out automatically. You kind of have to kind of probe, right? But I was hoping that when there are things to be shared, you don't have to actually identify them. They just come to you. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, and that's really important. That's when there's 100% trust. And I'm not saying there isn't trust between father here and his sons, but once again, there's a lot of barriers. There's a lot of ideas that are planted in the kids' minds in terms of what's right, what's wrong. And unfortunately, parents are no longer the greatest influencers. Why? Because the time you have, the contact time that you have with your kids, as soon as they start school, at the age of 3, 4, 5, continues to be limiting. When they go to college and they have a girlfriend or a boyfriend and they get married, and once again, the contact time gets limited, right? It's kind of how it is. Think about your communication with your own parents. Do you communicate so openly with your own parents? Well, I'm an adult now, so I don't have to do that. If we can be vulnerable ourselves as adults, then we allow our kids to see this state of vulnerability, and that allows them to be more comfortable in communicating. Let me give you guys 2 very specific examples of how you can improve the communication with your kids. Number 1, remember, vocal communication is not the only way of communication. As a kid, my father wanted us to not forget the Korean language, right? So I'm Korean by background. And every day he asked us to write a 1-page journal in Korean, 1-page journal. And he gave us very loose guidance. He said, just write anything you want to talk about in Korean that you feel comfortable sharing. And I wrote every day. For every day I wrote, my dad gave me $1, a US dollar. What is that, like 30 baht? And then after 1 week, I could earn $7. After 1 month, nearly $30. That was kind of my allowance. He was encouraging us to not forget the Korean language. But let me tell you something he did every single day, no matter what time he came home. He marked the journal in red ink. Every single night, my dad would correct the grammar, because my Korean was not perfect. I left Korea when I was 5. Give me suggestions, and have discussion through paper, through writing. So this is how we communicated. And let me tell you, I wrote some very sensitive things in that journal that I maybe didn't feel comfortable looking at my dad eye to eye, because he's a manly man, right, that I didn't want to talk about, but I captured in the journal. So writing can be one fantastic way to increase this type of communication. Okay. Another way is we need to be intentional as parents in terms of the friends that our children spend time with. What am I saying? Well, regardless of your influence or not, your kids will choose the friends at school, right? And oftentimes when they choose their friends at school, it's because they're in the same class, they're in the same sports, they're in the same activities, they have similar hobbies or interests, right? And this is what your kids are doing. So as parents, if we really want to know what's going on and understand the heartbeat of our kids, we invite their friends over to our house quite often. And you do it, once again, very subtly. But when you bring your kids and your kids' best friends to your house and you see them interacting, you can really see the type of social influence that your children have. And if you want to take it one step further as parents, you can also spend time with their parents too. Right? So if my kid has like 3 best friends, then it's probably important that you know who their parents are. Right? We as parents need to be intentional about the type of community that our kids are building. And as they get older, you have less influence on that. As your kids get older, you cannot choose and pick the friends that your children will spend time with. They will choose for themselves. So as parents, we can bring them into our house, spend time with them, understand what type of friends our kids are hanging out with, and listen to the conversations they're having. What's interesting is kids are quite honest and open. And sometimes if your son doesn't share, sons don't share what they're struggling with, their best friends might. Especially if they also see you as a father figure or a mother figure, right? And you start developing a relationship, and that's an opportunity where you can also build that communication. And maybe there's one more, right? And this is why I think mentors are critical. Mentors are critical. So, when we go to school, we usually interact with teachers. Teachers share knowledge, right? So I teach like a subject, and I share concepts, and I teach knowledge. Mentors share their life experiences. So there's a big contrast between a teacher and a mentor. And what's important, and this is advice from my mom who raised 2 sons. She says, as parents, we have 2 important responsibilities, right? Number 1, we need to teach our kids the values, right? So all of your kids didn't learn to be an honest person, not steal, not say bad words, right? Greet people, have manners. They learned that from you, actually. They didn't learn that from school, right? What school does is it reinforces those values. So point number 1, as parents, we need to instill values in our kids that we want them to grow up to be, right? Like the men and women of character. Whatever it is for you, whatever is important for you, you decide as parents. And probably those values are passed on from your parents as well. Point number 2, guess what? Puberty is a real thing. How do you say puberty in Thai? Do you know? Is there even a word for puberty? There's hormones, right? So basically, usually when kids are at about, it all depends, right? Kids have different hormone levels and ages. But in the middle school years, so when they're about 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-ish, this is when puberty happens. And it's real. It's super real. My brother went through intense puberty, right? My brother and my dad, best friends growing up, when he hit puberty, they used to argue every single day about something so silly as, hey, Dad, don't tell me what I need to do, right? And so my mom says, as parents, before your kids hit puberty, you need to find mentors, right? No kid's going to go up to some adult and say, hey, can you be my mentor? Nobody's going to do that, right? So you as parents need to find mentors out there, whether it's in school, whether it's in after school, whether it's in activities, whether it's like a relative, right, who share the same values that you have been teaching them growing up. And as parents, if you can find those mentors and you surround your children with the mentors, then you create another layer of learning, of safety, of growth. This is important. And so growing up, I can tell you all the mentors in my life who had a profound, a deep impact on my life. Of course, my parents, my older brother, and a list of about 10 mentors who went the extra mile to guide me, to coach me, to help me. Even I had conversations with these mentors I didn't share with my own parents about relationships, about some mental health, right, struggles that I went through, about doubt, right, these kinds of things. So 2 things you need to remember as parents. Okay, so how do I expand the possibilities and opportunities for my child? Yeah, actually, right, we're all busy as parents, but the most important thing that we want to create are traditions. So what do I mean by that? Okay? Maybe one of the best things that you can do is we know that our kids all need school, so they need academics. They need community service. Community service is really important, right? Because when you learn how people who do not have versus people who have your children, because you all worked hard to earn something to give your kids a better quality of life, but they need to know that, right? And they need to be grateful for that. So community service is an opportunity to help people who are in need, maybe lesser in social status, lesser in terms of gifts or what they're given, right? Leadership and character. And so these kind of different elements, right? And so what we want to encourage is think about building a family tradition where every year, you go somewhere, whether it's here in Thailand or it's outside of Thailand, and you spend time rather than going to a 5-star resort, eating really good food, right, staying at a really nice hotel, you go somewhere less privileged. It's going to be hard, right, for parents too. I mean, who wants to suffer, right, at our age, right? So you go somewhere less privileged, and you build a family tradition where mom and dad and kids help other people. Think about that. Mom and dad and kids help other people who are in need. So it's not like you're sending your kids through the school on a community service trip. You're doing it together. Why? Because we are the sum of our experiences, as I mentioned before. And when you see your kids and you as parents interacting with people who do not have as much as what you do, and you see the conversations they have, you see the contributions that you can make as a family, there is so much growth that takes place in that family, in the family structure. And many, many years later, I promise you guys, your kids will talk about those experiences, right? They're not going to talk about the Four Seasons hotel you stayed at, right? The really nice resorts and places that you travel to, but they're going to talk about those hardships and those challenges and helping others, right? Once again, this is creating that type of family culture and tradition and mindset. And sometimes when you remove yourself away from your house, you remove yourself away from your job, you remove yourself away from your school, you break down all of these barriers, actually your children will open up a whole lot more, right? Because you're no longer in the same comfortable structure that you live, right? When you're away in some once again, less privileged place where you're helping people and you're suffering together as a family, helping people, walls start breaking down, right? Barriers start breaking down and communication starts really opening up, right? Raise your hand here if right now any one of you do something like that, where maybe on a yearly basis or even one time you've gone on like a community service trip with your children, maybe with other families to help people. Raise your hand. Okay? Can you share with us what you did?
ก็ทุกปีค่ะก็คือวันเกิดคุณแม่ก็จะให้ครอบครัวทั้งหมดนะคะไปบริจาคหรือมีแบบ family trip ไปให้ของคนที่ด้อยโอกาสมากกว่าว่าเลี้ยงอาหารอะไรเงี้ยค่ะ
Do you do that together with your kids? It's like a family thing, right? Yeah. So that's like a family tradition, right? Let me ask you this. When you do that, do you talk to your kids about what do they think about this, right? What have they learned about this? Do you talk about the reflections or do you guys just do it? Just do it. Yeah, like Nike, just do it, right? So here's the important thing, right? Oftentimes as parents, right, we need to think about the time we spend with our kids is quite limiting. And so we need to be very intentional about, once again, the conversations we have with our kids and what we say to them, right? So the act of helping other people is a fantastic deed, right? And it can help your kids learn something. But what's important is we need to check and make sure they're learning something, right? Go ahead. Sure. And so we build these types of habits. If we want to increase the communication in the family, we want to increase this type of engagement, then we have our kids talk about it openly, right? Once again, there's many ways to do it. Number one is whichever organization you're contributing to, you can have your kids write like a letter of reflection to them and have them share it back to you, right? Because sometimes if the parents make them do it, it's like, Mom, Dad, come on, right? Number two is you can ask your kids to just talk to you about it, right? By you sharing first as a parent, hey, this is what I've learned. Hey, what about you, right? Number three is you can also have them write a letter of reflection about it, right? Make it like a school assignment. So there's many ways, but it's important that we capture those positive experiences together and we share as a family, okay? So think about that. Once again, I'm sharing with you advice that I've given to families over the past 12 years in education. I believe that it has served them quite well over the years to build these traditions, to build these values, right? We're all busy. We all have many things to do. But if we can take a stop sometimes, reflect upon what we're doing well, and then things that we can do to improve, then it can be much more meaningful and intentional. And by the way, I think every single parent here would be willing to sacrifice anything and everything for their kids. I think that's a pretty true statement, right? I never really understood that kind of unconditional love until I became a father too. But I'm willing to stop everything for my kids, right? And I think parents feel the same way. So let's focus that energy and time in a way where it can be more meaningful with them, okay? So once again, these are some very specific things that you can do at home. I think we've talked about that quite extensively. So I want to encourage you guys to do one thing when you go home. Actually, two things, okay? Very simply, number one, just ask them this simple question. Say, hey, what is the most valuable lesson that you've learned from Mom? So Dad should ask that question, right? And then, what is the most valuable lesson that you've learned from Dad? Mom should ask that question. Meaning, right? Like, what is the most valuable lesson that you've learned from us? Whether it's from our advice or the nagging, right? That you can apply for the rest of your life. Mom and Dad do not care so much about what you learn in school. Sure, we want you to be great. We want you to work hard. But at the end of the day, Mom and Dad just want to make sure that we've taught you something that can help you in life. Not make money, not be successful, but be happy. Be fulfilled, right? So talk about that. I'll tell you guys, my mom taught me to be sweet. What? That's really weird advice to give to a son. Think about that, right? Especially in a traditional Asian household, hey, be sweet. She told my older brother, be a man, don't cry, be number one, right? This kind of advice. But then my mom learned maybe that's not the right advice to give to your sons. Be sweet means have empathy for others. Emotional intelligence, EQ, is something that we can, through research, develop. IQ, we cannot. We're born with it. And so even now, right, as an almost 40-year-old man, right, I'm not going to tell you I'm the sweetest man in the world, but I think about that, and I focus on how I can treat others with respect and always be in their shoes when I communicate. Number two, my dad taught me the value of hard work. Value of hard work. Every single weekend as a kid, we did yard work. In America, right, everybody has a yard, right, like a lawn, right, because there's land is abundant. Every single weekend. So at the age of 10, my hands were bleeding from blistering. I went to my dad and I started crying. I said, hey, Dad, my hands are bleeding. I was trying to get out of the work. And my dad said, son, go put on gloves. So through tears, I put on gloves and I kept doing the yard work. So those are lessons that my parents taught me. Ask your kids. I'm really curious what your kids will tell you, right? If they say nothing, don't be depressed or sad, right? Use that as an opportunity to then teach them something, right? If they say something, wow, I never even thought that I taught you that, but that's fantastic. And that should motivate you to do more of that. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two is gratitude. So once again, we always talk about family traditions here. Gratitude. Every single day, whether you, raise your hand if you spend time with your kids, breakfast with your kids. Probably not so many, right? Because breakfast, we're kind of, okay, what about dinner? You have dinner with your kids. Okay, so at least as a family, we should try to have one meal a day. We should try to, right? Please, this is really important, right? And when we have that meal, no technology. If you're having a meal and you're on your phone checking your work emails, talking, right, doing an online Zoom meeting, no go. No TV. There should be no technology. We should actually sit down and talk to each other. Wow. Think about that, right? There's nothing worse when we go out, to the malls and we see kids listening to music or their AirPods, right? While parents are like texting on their phone. It's like, what? What's going on here? What happened? What's happening with society, right? Missed opportunity. So whether breakfast or at dinner, whatever is the best family time, we want to encourage you guys to do this once a day. Super easy. It's called gratitudes, 21 days of gratitudes. But you can do it longer than 21 days because it's 21 days to build a habit. This is research that's done by a Harvard University professor, Sean Aker. He actually teaches a class called Happiness. It's the most popular class at Harvard, okay? And so you say 3 things as a parent that you're grateful for the last 24 hours. It can be anything, right? I'm grateful for mom making us dinner. Last night she made lasagna. That was my favorite thing, right? Or pad thai. I don't know, right? Whatever you guys eat. Number 2 is I'm grateful because I was super busy, but you guys help make dad's bed, right? So once again, just 3 things. Each person shares. What are we doing? We're actually rewiring the brain, the human brain, to think more positive rather than negative or neutral. Actually, this is proven through science, right? Think about it. Generally, as human beings, we always think about what we don't have, our weaknesses, the areas of growth. We always just do that. The targets we didn't meet. True, right? If I were to ask your kids, they would probably say the same thing. Oh, I'm not that good. I'm not that smart. Very, very few kids would stand up and say, hey, look at me, I'm the best. Even if they might think that, they wouldn't communicate that because it's not cool or acceptable to do that. So, as families, just 3 things that you're grateful for. Mom shares, dad shares, kids share, and you start building this habit, this mindset of gratitude. Once you do that, your kids, when they face challenges in life and you're not there, or they don't want to share with you because they're going through puberty and it's not cool to do that, right? Your kids will know to think more positive and say, you know what? Other people are going through this problem too. You know what? I have a lot of support system here. I can resolve this. You know what? It's okay to talk to people about my issues, my problems. It'll be accepted, right? And we do this. So raise your hand if you can commit to 21 days of gratitude. At least do it for 21 days. Okay? We hope everybody here can do that. All right, so I think your kids are coming back soon. I hear a lot of noise. Let me just quickly highlight the summer camp here. Summer camp is my favorite program, right? Because we get your kids for 2 weeks, and we build the personal relationships as mentors and role models. And by the way, they build healthy life habits. So once again, home, school is their home, and then Point Avenue, we want this to be their 3rd home. Our leadership philosophy focuses on academic rigor, physical fitness, and global citizenry, right? So this is in the curriculum for the 2-week summer camp that we offer. We focus 40% of the curriculum on global citizenry and leadership, 30% on physical fitness, and 30% on academic rigor. The academic rigor is not like the subjects they learn in school, right? So we focus on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We teach about zero hunger, right? We teach about life on land, right? We also talk about life coaching, which is about leadership. The mentor to camper ratio, right? In order to be mentors, you need to have that ratio. 1 mentor to 3 students. So we have a lot of mentors in there with the training and experience to guide your kids. Public speaking and a lot of creative writing workshops and a sense of building community. So what I'll share with you guys is a quick highlight about the camp. So this year, the camp will be at Patana Sports Resort. Right? If you're a golfer, you know there's like a 40-hole golf course there, but it's a beautiful resort. And the camp will be hosted here. It has so many wonderful facilities for your kids, right? So there's like a turf field, there's swimming pools, there's football fields, there's running tracks. It's the ideal location for a camp. This is the general schedule. So the kids will wake up early in the morning, right? Around 6 a.m. They have to make their bed. They have to clean their room. Okay, they don't have to wash their socks because we actually have laundry services 3 times a week. But they're responsible for cleaning their room, and they have a roommate too, right? If you have an only child or if your kids live separately, it's an opportunity to live with somebody, right? And not be a pest, right? Learning to live with other people is also an important life skill. And by the way, Then we have classes, life coaching class. We have global citizens class. And then a lot of activities. So we do a lot of icebreakers, leadership activities, communication activities, a lot of sports, a lot of games. And then I think the most important time is what we call the intentional time. So during the intentional time is when we actually do a reflection of the day. So the mentors will engage with their 1 to 3 group of students, and then it's an open discussion and reflection about, hey, what are you proud of today that you accomplished? What were some of the challenges that you faced? And then how did you overcome those challenges? Oh, do you want some of my advice? Sure. If I were in your shoes, I would think about it doing it this way. And every single day, there's an opportunity to reflect together and then to grow together. We have a physical fitness test at the beginning of camp that we do. And then at the end of camp, there's always some type of, we can say, a culminating challenge, right? So whether it's like a 5 kilometer or a 10 kilometer, right? Or some type of team event where you have to move objects from point A to point B, but you have to do it together. So there's these types of collaborative activities that your kids can be proud of, right? When they cross that finish line, oftentimes tears are shed and memories are shared. And these are kind of the important opportunities that we build during the camp times. This summer, we have 2 courses. So we have life coaching, and we focus on the foundation of leadership. So total number of lessons in a 2-week camp is 9 lessons and 13.5 hours. And then the other topic that we teach is once again on the UN Sustainable Goals, and it's called Life on Land. So understanding how the land resources are becoming more and more scarce and why it's important as citizens to think about the environment and protecting planet Earth. Many activities that they'll do, right? So they'll learn some new games. A summer camp favorite is capture the flag. They love that, right? But we do a lot of activities. We teach them about football, right? Volleyball, dodgeball, different games. We also have STEM challenge, which is science, tech, engineering, math. It's a bit of design thinking and creativity where students have to figure things out. Of course, we're going to use the water games. Kids who can't swim, right? We'll make sure at all times safety is our number one priority. So there's a lifeguard on deck, right? There's mentors always watching. Kids who can't swim would wear a life jacket at a minimum, right? But there's a lot of activities for students. We do movie under the stars. We do board games. We do book clubs. Camp is a lot of fun. Usually what happens is in the first few days, your kids will be crying because they'll miss mom and dad, which is not a bad thing, right? Hey guys, come on in. Wow, you guys got cool bags. Is there anything in those bags? No? Okay, we're going to have to fill those bags up with these little snacks over here. Yes. Please. Yes. Okay, fantastic. So for the actual academic classes we offer, life coaching and life on land, it's based upon your English. Hey, buddy, you want to go this way? It's based on your English fluency. Yeah, please, go ahead. It's based on your English fluency, right? So we'll group kids based on their age level and their English fluency. But for the activities, we do it as a group, right? Why is that important? Because that's real life, right? In real life, as older kids, we have a sense of responsibility to take care of the younger students. And as a younger students, we have the opportunity to build relationships with older students who can be good role models for us. So how we operate the camp is there's squads, right? So there's first Alpha Squad, Bravo Squad, Charlie Squad. And then within the squads, there's leadership positions that are created. So you have a squad leader, you have a team leader. Oftentimes the squad leaders are the older students who have come to camp before. So they understand the camp structure, the rules, the guidelines, and then they can operate within that structure. For the younger kids, it's an opportunity for them to eventually learn how they can become a leader at future camps. So we operate based on this type of structure, and it's a fantastic way for the older students to also learn to be mentors and role models for the younger kids. Okay? We were already going into the camp stuff. But before we do, let's get some volunteers. Let's get some volunteers. You guys are looking. Oh, okay. Fantastic. Come up here, buddy. So you volunteered without even knowing what I'm going to ask you to do. What if I ask you to do a little dance and a song? Can you do that? You can't? But you volunteered. When you commit to doing something, you got to follow through, right? So anything I ask you to do, you're willing to do? Almost anything? Okay, wow, that's great. Okay, so can you please go ahead and introduce yourself? What's your name? How old are you? And then what grade are you in?
My name is T, and I'm in 4th grade. I'm 10 years old.
What school do you go to?
I go to ISB, International School of Bangkok.
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic school. So let me ask you, what did you learn today?
In Point Avenue,
Yeah, in Point Avenue, what did you learn?
that they do like a lot of activities, and we worked on the communication.
Okay. Communication.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you learned about communication that you can take away with you?
You have to speak very clearly for another person to understand.
Right now, you're speaking very clearly too and confidently. High five. Okay. So let me ask you another question. Where are your parents?
There.
Okay. So
There.
that's
My
your dad and your
dad
mom.
And my mom.
Who's that little guy right there looking
My
at you?
brother.
He's your brother?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you a good brother?
Yes.
You are? Is he a good brother? He is? Nice. You passed the test. Okay. I'm the younger brother, right? So I didn't always say he's a good brother. He's always hard on me. So, okay, let me ask you this. Okay. Your dad there,
Yes.
right? What's something that your dad has taught you about communication?
That you have to speak when you're in a new environment or when you want to speak to people about something. You have to speak confidently and surely.
And that's what you're doing right now. So can you say thank you, Dad, for that
Thank
skill?
you.
Okay, fantastic. All right, let me ask you this. What about your mom? What is something that your mom has taught you about family, about love? A little bit awkward, right, to talk about that in front of everybody. I understand. I'm putting you on the spot. But would you rather do that or dance and sing?
Do this.
Okay. Good answer.
That that you have to love everyone in your family and be like, you have to be honest.
Okay.
So if you're honest with people, you can have more trust and be more close.
That's
with
fantastic.
Your relationship.
So you have to love everyone in your family. You
Yes.
can't choose your mom and dad, right?
Yeah.
You can't. Right? They're given to you. What about, can you choose your brother?
No.
You can't? Okay. So you got to love everybody, including that little guy there.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to be honest.
Yeah.
Honest in what?
In like what you say to them. So you shouldn't lie.
Sure. Okay. And so you're honest about communicating and sharing with your parents.
Yes.
Do you think that you share everything with your parents?
Yes.
You
I
do?
think I share most of the stuff I do at school.
Yep.
But maybe with my friends, we talk about a lot of stuff.
Okay. So you share more with your friends than you do with your parents?
No.
You don't? Okay. You're not going to get in trouble, by the way. Okay. So let me ask you this. Who do you think can give you the best life advice? Your friends or your parents?
My parents.
Okay. So do you think that it's important to share more and everything with your parents because they're always willing to help you in any
Yes.
situation than it is with your friends?
Yeah, we're also at school. We're also talking about how people influence us to do things,
No, that's good.
and they always say that the parents are our number one influence.
So do you agree with that?
Yes.
So you can make the commitment to share everything with your parents?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And if you don't feel comfortable talking to them about it, what's another way you can communicate with them about it?
Maybe you can you can tell them another time. I want to talk about this. It's yeah.
Yeah. So hey, mom and dad, maybe not now. I need time to think about it, process it, and let's talk about it later. Or can you also write about it?
Yes, you can also write about
Yeah.
it.
Right? Because communication is not always verbal communication. Right? So those are some examples and things that you can do. All right? High five. Great job today. Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to pick somebody in here and pass the microphone, but it can't be your brother. Look at all these people looking away. Putting on your mask, covering your face. You know, nowadays, students use the mask to cover their face, right? So we have a no mask policy now because everybody's
Oh.
vaccinated.
Okay.
Okay, can you choose somebody? Pick anybody. Oh, nice. Do you guys know each other? Do you know each other? Okay, all right, come up here. Nice. Okay, why don't you do me a favor and you introduce your friend here? Do you remember her name and stuff, or? Joey. Is that right? Close. Okay, Joa. Okay, and then do you know how old she is? Do you remember? She didn't tell, but at least you kind of remembered her name. Okay, do you remember his name? What's his name? Yeah, okay. Is that right? Okay, good. All right. So, high five. Good job. Okay. Do you know why you volunteered to come up here? No. You didn't volunteer,
No.
right? So you shouldn't know because you didn't volunteer. You were voluntold. Voluntold by your new friend over there, right? You're gonna remember him forever and ever. Okay. Can you go and introduce yourself too?
To him?
To everybody here, introduce about yourself. Anything you want to share?
I'm 9 years old.
Is that on? All right. Also, when we use the microphone, we want to put the microphone right here on our chin. This is something we learn in public speaking, right? Because if we move the microphone around like this, it's hard to hear, and we can't capture all the wonderful things that you want to communicate. So rest it
Okay.
here, okay? You like wearing that mask, huh?
Yes.
Are you sick?
No.
You want to cover your face a little bit?
Not really.
Why are you wearing the mask? Because you're used to it?
Yeah.
Because it's comfortable? Okay, all right. So rest the microphone here, okay? And don't move it, all right? And then let's continue. Go ahead and continue to introduce yourself. What did you learn today?
The working together,
What about working together?
teamwork.
Teamwork. So what is one thing you did? Give me a real example of teamwork that you did today. Can you like explain? Because I wasn't there, so I want to know.
Like the maze and like the other person is like walking and you give instructions.
Was the other person blindfolded?
Yeah.
Okay, so one person was blindfolded, and then you had to help the person do what? What did they have to do?
I'm the blindfolded.
Oh, you were blindfolded.
Yes.
Who was your buddy? Oh, that's how you guys know each other. Okay. What's her name again? It's not Joey. Yeah, Joe. Okay. So, did he give you good instructions, you think?
Yes.
Did you run into a wall?
No.
So you didn't get injured?
I didn't get in.
Glad you didn't get injured. Okay. But if you did, all the Point Avenue mentors are first aid and CPR certified. So you'd be okay. Right? So
Yes.
let me ask you this. What's something that you can take away from that blindfolding activity about teamwork that you can apply at your school? What school do you go to?
Rem Ready. RISR.
Yeah, RIS?
RISR Rem Ready.
Okay, Rum Ready, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's something you can take away about teamwork that you can apply at school when you go back? Are you going to blindfold all your friends?
No.
Okay. What's something you can apply about teamwork?
Being a leader and helping all your friends
Okay.
when they don't know what to do.
Sure. Oftentimes, we may know something that our friends may not. We may have information, more insight, more experience, and we should never look at them and say, ha ha, and make fun of them, but we should be encouraging and guide them as leaders. And sometimes you might be the person who gets blindfolded, as in you may not have the experience. And other times you may lead people who are blindfolded. And in life, we change our roles and responsibilities. And this is how we grow. Okay? Are your parents here?
Yes.
here?
Over
Okay,
there.
over there. Oh, okay. So, is this your grandma?
Yes.
Okay, and that's your mom.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, what's something that your grandmas are incredible, right? My grandma on my mom's side is still like I'm her favorite grandchild. She actually, I can quote her on that, right? And she has like 13 grandkids. So, let me ask you this: what's something your grandma has taught you in your life that is something you will always remember about grandma?
Love.
Okay, love.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit? How does grandma express or teach you about love?
Making me laugh sometimes.
Okay, make you laugh sometimes.
Yeah.
And what else?
And teaching me what is right or wrong.
Yeah, teaching you what is right or wrong.
Yeah.
So good values. And usually if your mom says no, grandma probably says yes, right?
Sometimes.
Yeah, that's what grandparents usually do. Okay? All right. So thank you very much. High five. Can you pick somebody? One more person. Oh, there you go. For looking away. Come up here. Round of applause. All right, great job. All right. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Lana and I'm 9 years old. I study at RIS.
Okay, fantastic. She has already implemented the advice I gave her, right? I told the students to put their microphone right here, and you're doing it right away. That's a great job. High five. Okay, so are you nervous right now?
Kind of?
A little bit? Have you ever stood in front of an audience like this to communicate?
Yeah.
You have. Okay, so this is familiar territory for you, right? Let me ask you something. What's something you learned today?
Today I learned how to transport and communicate with others.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So give me a specific example. Always, students, when you guys answer a question or you respond to someone, try to give a specific example, right? Examples are important evidence that allows us to communicate and have better understanding. So can you give me a specific example?
So today I was the messenger. So my sister told me.
Is that your sister?
Yeah,
Okay. You guys kind of look alike.
we're twins.
Oh, that's why you guys look alike. I have twins too. I have twin boys. Okay, who's older?
Me.
You are? Okay, cool. So?
So she was the observer. So she told me, and then I gave my friend a message. Then she built, and then we won the game.
Okay. Oh, you won the game. That's important, right? Winning. Do you
Yeah.
think winning is more important or the process of learning to win?
The process.
The process. Okay, very good. So, what's something that you're looking forward to this summer? What are you doing this summer?
I'm going to the summer camp to learn new things.
Which summer camp?
This summer camp.
You are? High five. That's great. I didn't even know that. All right. By the way, is your sister coming too?
Maybe.
Maybe. You got to still convince her, right? You got to convince her. All right. Let's talk to her later, okay? All right. Great job. Please have a seat. Let's give all the students a round of applause. Okay. So I know we've spent a lot of time here, but what we enjoy doing most is providing opportunities to mentor your kids, right? So slides are slides, but this right here is real. The mentorship, the coaching, and this is really our passion. So actually, we had 3 great volunteers today, and for those who didn't volunteer, don't worry. If you come to camp, you'll have plenty of opportunities to volunteer. Okay? Are you guys nervous about that? It's okay. We got to overcome the anxiety. So what we want to do here is just kind of skip through all this. Health and safety is number 1 priority at the camp. We have a full-time nurse who's on site with us, right? We have an entire medical evacuation plan. We communicate with parents on a daily basis to update the parents. Generally, I think at this point, all the children would have been vaccinated, so that's no longer as much of a concern. But, of course, we focus on hygiene, we focus on safety, and in ensuring that your kids are having fun, but being safe. There's a nice little video here we can share with you guys about the kids having fun at the camp. But let's go ahead and just kind of skip down to the end here, okay? So if you're interested in learning more about the camp, you can go ahead and scan this QR code, or we'll be here. Any other mentors who are wearing the Point Avenue black polos, right? You can just talk to any one of us to learn more. And at this time, we can pause here and see if the parents or the students have any questions about the camp. Ask one question about the camp, something you're dying to know. How's the food? Food's pretty good. Okay, the food's really good. So the food is a combination of Thai international selections for students. So sometimes we'll have spaghetti, right? But obviously there's a healthy balance. So it's not just like carbs. And by the way, there's no soft drinks. So it's water. So we try to be healthy. But the food will be good. Yeah, what's up?
Vegetable. Vegetable.
What is that? Oh, vegetables. Yes, a lot of vegetables. Do you like vegetables? What's your favorite vegetable?
Green leaf.
Green leaves. You like lettuce. Okay? All right. Do you have a question for us? Can you ask me a question about camp? Should we ask your older brother? Is that your older brother? Okay. Ask me a question about camp.
I don't know.
Ask me anything. Something you want to know about the camp. It's a boarding camp. Do you know what a boarding camp is? Boarding? Boarding means that you're not going to see your parents for 2 weeks. Freedom for mom and dad, right? So it's a boarding camp, which means that you'll be away from mom and dad. It's not too far away. It's only like 2 hours away. And then you'll be able to see your parents at the end of camp when we have the graduation ceremony and we bring you guys back. Okay? All right, so I think we'll stay here and see if any of the parents have any questions. And then we also have day camps too. So we have the boarding camp, but we also have debate, public speaking day camps that will be offered here at Point Avenue. And the dates right here are 12 June to 21 July. Thank you very much. Come cup.